The moans reached Sharon's ears before she even opened the bedroom door. She stood frozen in the hallway of the apartment she shared with David, her hand trembling on the doorknob, grocery bags slipping from her fingers. Organic strawberries rolled across the hardwood floor. His favorites. She had left work early to surprise him for their 3-year anniversary. But the surprise was hers. Through the crack in the door, she saw them. David, the man who had promised her forever just last month, his body intertwined with someone else on their bed, on the sheets they had picked out together at Target. And beneath him, moaning his name with theatrical pleasure, was Jasmine, her best friend since freshman year of college, her maid of honor for the wedding they had been planning, the woman who had held her hand through every heartbreak and promised she would never be like those other girls. Sharon's chest caved in. The pain was physical, sharp, like someone had reached into her ribcage and squeezed her heart until it burst. David, she heard herself say. Her voice didn't sound like her own. It was hollow, broken. The movement on the bed stopped. David's head whipped toward the door, his eyes widening with the particular horror of a man caught in the act. Jasmine scrambled to cover herself with the sheets, her braids, the one Sharon had helped install just last weekend, falling across her bare shoulders. Sharon! David jumped off the bed, reaching for his boxers. Baby, wait, this isn't what it looks like. It isn't what it looks like? Sharon's voice cracked. She pushed the door open fully, stepping into the room that now felt like a crime scene. You're naked. She's naked. In our bed. On our anniversary. What exactly does it look like, David? Jasmine had the audacity to look annoyed. Girl, maybe you should have been handling your business better. A man has needs. The words hit Sharon like a slap. She stared at the woman she had called her sister, the woman she had defended to everyone who said she was fake, the woman she had trusted with her deepest secrets and insecurities. How long? Sharon asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David opened his mouth, but Jasmine answered first, a cruel smile playing on her lips. 8 months. Since your birthday party. You know, the one where you got so drunk you passed out early. 8 months. 8 months of lies. Of fake smiles. Of planning a wedding to a man who was sleeping with her best friend. 8 months of Jasmine sitting across from her at brunch, asking about wedding details, knowing she was sharing Sharon's bed. Something inside Sharon shattered. But instead of breaking down, instead of giving them the satisfaction of her tears, something else rose up. Something cold. Something that had been dormant inside her for 26 years. She picked up her engagement ring, the one David had put on her finger with promises of forever, and threw it at his chest. We're done. Sharon, come on, let's talk about this. David tried to grab her arm, but she yanked it away. Don't you ever touch me again. She walked out of that apartment with nothing but her purse and the clothes on her back. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply walked into the cold Seoul night, the city she had moved to for David's job, leaving behind everything she knew in Atlanta, and let the neon lights swallow her whole. If you are already hooked and want to see what happens next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Trust me, you don't want to miss where this is going. Sharon walked for hours. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't care. The city of Seoul stretched out before her, a maze of glittering skyscrapers and narrow alleyways, of K-pop billboards and traditional temples. She had lived here for 2 years, but tonight, she felt like a stranger in a strange land. Her phone buzzed repeatedly. David. Jasmine. Unknown numbers that were probably them calling from different phones. She turned it off and kept walking. Eventually, her feet carried her to Gangnam, to a sleek black building with no sign, just a heavy door and a bouncer who looked at her like she was lost. Private club, he said in accented English. Sharon didn't know what possessed her. Maybe it was the numbness. Maybe it was the desperate need to feel something other than this crushing emptiness. Maybe it was the fact that she had spent 3 years being the good girlfriend, the understanding partner, the woman who always put David's needs first, and look where that had gotten her. I want in, she said. The bouncer looked her up and down. She was still wearing her work clothes, a fitted black dress that hugged her curves, heels that made her legs look endless. Her locks were swept up in an elegant updo. She looked expensive, even if she felt worthless. Something in his expression shifted. He stepped aside. The club was unlike anything Sharon had ever seen. Dark, luxurious, dangerous. Crystal chandeliers cast shadows across velvet booths where men in expensive suits conducted conversations in hushed tones. Beautiful women draped themselves over these men like accessories. The air smelled like money and secrets. Sharon walked straight to the bar and sat down. Whiskey, she told the bartender. Neat. And keep them coming. She downed the first glass like water. The second one burned less. By the third, the edges of her pain had started to blur. Drinking alone is a sad affair. The voice came from beside her. Deep, smooth, accented in a way that made her skin tingle. Sharon turned, ready to tell whoever it was to leave her alone. But the words died in her throat. He was beautiful. There was no other word for it. Sharp jawline, full lips, dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her. His black hair was pushed back from his face, and a thin scar ran through his left eyebrow, the only imperfection on an otherwise flawless face. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her annual salary, and his presence commanded the attention of everyone in the room, even though he wasn't doing anything but sitting there. "I'm having the best night of my life," Sharon said dryly. "Can't you tell?" He smiled. It was a dangerous smile, the kind that promised trouble. "What happened? Why do you care?" "I don't." He signaled the bartender for 2 more drinks. "But you're interesting. I haven't seen anyone walk into this club with that much rage in their eyes in a long time." "Rage." Sharon laughed bitterly. "Is that what this is?" "You're hurting," he said, his voice dropping. "But underneath that hurt, there's anger. The kind that burns cities down." Sharon stared at him. Nobody had ever read her so accurately after knowing her for 30 seconds. "My boyfriend cheated on me," she heard herself say. "With my best friend. I caught them tonight. In our bed. After 3 years. After I gave up everything for him." The man's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "He's a fool." "Yeah, well, apparently I'm the bigger fool for not seeing it." "No." He shook his head. "You trusted. That's not foolish. That's human. What's foolish is breaking that trust. There's nothing more precious than loyalty. And nothing more unforgivable than betrayal." The way he said it made Sharon shiver. Like he wasn't just talking about relationships. Like betrayal to him was a crime punishable by something far worse than heartbreak. "What's your name?" she asked. "Do you really want to know?" "Yes." He studied her for a long moment. "Junho. Kong Junho. I'm Sharon." "I know." She frowned. "How?" He smiled again, that dangerous smile. "I make it my business to know everyone who walks through those doors. Especially beautiful women who look like they're about to burn the world down." The whiskey was making her brave. Or maybe it was the pain, numbing her to consequences. Or maybe it was him, this beautiful stranger who looked at her like she was the most interesting thing in the room. "Dance with me," she said. Junho raised an eyebrow. "I don't dance. Neither do I. But I don't want to think anymore. And I think you can help with that." He stood and offered her his hand. It was warm, strong, and as soon as she touched it, electricity shot through her entire body. They moved to a darker corner of the club, where the music was slower, sultrier. Junho pulled her close, his hand settling on the small of her back. She could feel the heat of him through his suit jacket, could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that made her head spin. "You're playing with fire," he murmured against her ear. "Good," she whispered back. "I want to burn." And then, because she was tired of being careful, tired of being good, tired of being the woman who followed all the rules and still got her heart broken, Sharon pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. "Are you going to kiss me or not?" Junho's eyes darkened. For a moment, she thought he would say no. That he would be the gentleman, walk away, leave her alone with her whiskey and her heartbreak. But he wasn't a gentleman. She could see that now. He cupped her face with both hands and kissed her. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was consuming. Possessive. His lips moved against hers with a hunger that stole the breath from her lungs. Her back hit the wall, and she didn't care. Her fingers tangled in his hair, and she didn't care about that either. All she cared about was this moment, this feeling, this fire that was burning away all the pain. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Come with me, Junho said. It wasn't a request. Where? Does it matter? It didn't. Nothing mattered anymore. Not David. Not Jasmine. Not the life she had so carefully built that had crumbled to dust. Okay. Junho took her hand and led her through the club, past the velvet booths, past the watching eyes, to a private elevator in the back. He pressed his thumb to a scanner, and the doors slid open. VIP? Sharon asked. Something like that. The elevator shot upward, and moments later, they stepped into a penthouse that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Seoul skyline. Modern art hung on the walls. Everything was black and gold and sleek. You live here? Sharon breathed. When I'm in the city. She turned to look at him, really look at him, and for the first time, a sliver of unease crept into her chest. This man wasn't just rich. He was powerful in a way that she didn't fully understand. Who are you, Junho? He walked to the bar and poured 2 glasses of wine. A businessman. What kind of business? The kind you don't ask about. He handed her a glass. But I'll tell you this. I'm not a good man, Sharon. I do things that would horrify you. I've built an empire on things that would send most people running. If you want to leave, the door is right there. I won't stop you. She should leave. Every survival instinct she had was screaming at her to leave. But something in his eyes held her in place. Something that looked like recognition. Like he saw the darkness in her that she had been hiding all her life. I don't want to leave, she whispered. He set down his glass and closed the distance between them. Then stay. That night, Sharon let herself fall into the fire. She woke up the next morning in silk sheets, her body deliciously sore, to find the other side of the bed empty. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and for a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. David. Jasmine. The club. Junho. She sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest, and looked around. Her dress was folded neatly on a chair. Her heels were placed beside it. On the nightstand was a note. Asterisk had to leave for business. Stay as long as you like. My driver will take you wherever you need to go. J asterisk. Below the note was a black card with a phone number. Sharon stared at it for a long time. What had she done? She had slept with a stranger. A stranger who admitted he wasn't a good man. A stranger who looked at her like she was something to be consumed. And the worst part? She didn't regret it. She got dressed and took the elevator down to the lobby, where a man in a black suit was waiting. Miss Sharon? I'm Mr. Kang's driver. Where can I take you? Miss Sharon. Like she was someone important. Like she belonged here. I need to get my things from my apartment. The drive across the city gave her time to think. Time to realize that she had no plan. She had no savings that David didn't have access to. She had no family in Korea. Her job as a marketing coordinator at a tech company barely paid enough to cover rent, let alone a deposit on a new apartment. She was completely and utterly alone. When they arrived at the apartment, Sharon steeled herself and walked in. David was sitting on the couch, looking like he hadn't slept. When he saw her, he jumped to his feet. Sharon, thank God. Where have you been? I've been calling all night. I turned off my phone. Baby, please, we need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. Sharon walked past him toward the bedroom. I'm getting my things and leaving. David grabbed her arm. You can't just leave. Where are you going to go? You don't have anyone here. You need me. The words hit differently now. Because he was right. She didn't have anyone. She had isolated herself for him, focused all her energy on their relationship, and now she had nothing. But she would rather have nothing than stay with him. Let go of me, she said quietly. Sharon, come on. It was a mistake. Jasmine doesn't mean anything to me. You're the one I love. You're the one I want to marry. You should have thought about that before you put your dick in my best friend. David's expression shifted. The remorse faded, replaced by something uglier. Fine. You want to play it like that? Go ahead and leave. But you're not taking anything. This apartment is in my name. Everything in it is mine. You want to walk out? Walk out with nothing. Sharon stared at the man she had loved for 3 years and saw him clearly for the first time. The manipulation. The control. The way he had isolated her, made her dependent on him, made her feel like she was nothing without him. Keep it, she said. Keep all of it. It's not worth anything to me anymore. She grabbed a bag and threw in her clothes, her documents, her laptop. Nothing else. Nothing that reminded her of him. And then she walked out. She didn't know where she was going. She had maybe $200 in her personal account and no apartment. She sat in the back of Junho's car and finally let herself cry. Miss Sharon. The driver's voice was gentle. Mr. Kang asked me to inform you that if you need a place to stay, his guest suite is available. Sharon looked up, wiping her tears. He said that. He anticipated you might need it. She should say no. She barely knew this man. But the alternative was what? A hotel she couldn't afford? Sleeping on the street? Okay, she whispered. Take me there. Now, if you are invested in Sharon's journey and want to know what happens with Junho, drop a comment below telling me what you think is going to happen next. And if you haven't already, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Sharon moved into Junho's guest suite that day. It was bigger than her entire apartment with David. Private bathroom, walk-in closet, a view of the city that took her breath away. She didn't see Junho for 3 days. The penthouse was empty except for the staff who seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts, always there when she needed something, invisible when she didn't. On the 4th day, she was eating breakfast on the terrace when she heard the elevator doors open. Junho walked in, looking tired but still devastating in a black turtleneck and slacks. 2 men flanked him, both built like tanks, both with earpieces and expressions that said they were not to be messed with. You stayed, Junho said, dismissing his men with a wave. You said I could. He sat across from her and helped himself to her coffee. How are you feeling? Like my entire life imploded in the span of 24 hours. She looked at him, but also strangely free. Freedom is a double-edged sword. It can be exhilarating. It can also be terrifying. Are you speaking from experience? Junho smiled, but there was no humor in it. I've never been free, Sharon. Not a day in my life. She wanted to ask what he meant, but something told her he wouldn't answer. Not yet. Thank you, she said instead, for letting me stay. I promise I'll be out of your hair as soon as I figure out my next steps. There's no rush. He leaned back in his chair. In fact, I have a proposition for you. A proposition? I need someone with your skills. Marketing, brand management, public relations. My company is expanding into legitimate markets, and I need someone who can help me navigate the Western business world. Your company, Sharon repeated. The one you don't talk about. The one I'm willing to tell you about. If you're willing to listen. She should have said no. She should have thanked him for his hospitality and found a way to leave. But curiosity had always been her weakness. Tell me. Junho stood and walked to the window, his back to her. My family has controlled the underground economy of Seoul for 4 generations. We started with protection services, moved into gambling, then real estate. Now we have our hands in everything from shipping to technology to entertainment. You're in the Mafia, Sharon said flatly. We prefer organization. But yes, I am the head of the Kang family, the most powerful crime syndicate in South Korea. The words hung in the air. Sharon's heart was pounding, but strangely, she wasn't afraid. Maybe she should have been. Maybe she should have been running for the door. But she wasn't. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Junho turned to face her. Because I don't lie to people I'm interested in. And I'm very interested in you, Sharon. You don't know me. I know that you walked into my club with fire in your eyes. I know that you didn't flinch when I told you I wasn't a good man. I know that you have more strength in you than you realize. He walked toward her slowly. And I know that the people who hurt you deserve to pay for what they did. Sharon's breath caught. What do you mean? I mean that I've been looking into your boyfriend. David Reed. Works for a tech company that has significant debts to some very dangerous people. People who don't take kindly to employees who steal from the company. David steals from his company? Embezzlement. $500,000 over the past 2 years. He's been hiding it well, but not well enough. Sharon felt sick. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. That's how men like him operate. They keep their partners in the dark while they build their little empires of lies. Junho was in front of her now, close enough that she could smell his cologne. I can destroy him, Sharon. Financially. Professionally. Personally. I can make sure he never hurts another woman the way he hurt you. Why would you do that? Because I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. Junho smiled, and this time, it reached his eyes. Not yet. But you will be. If you want to be. It was insane. It was completely, absolutely insane. This man was a crime boss. A dangerous, powerful man who probably had blood on his hands. But he was also the only person who had ever looked at her like she was worth protecting. Worth fighting for. Worth burning the world down for. What do you want from me? She asked. Work for me. Publicly, you'll be my head of international marketing. You'll attend meetings, events, dinners. You'll help me build a legitimate image for my company. And privately? Junho's eyes darkened. Privately, I want you in my bed. In my life. By my side. That's a lot to ask from someone you just met. I know. That's why I'm not asking. I'm offering. You have complete freedom to say no. To walk away. To never see me again. He reached out and tucked a lock behind her ear. But I think you're tired of playing it safe. I think you're tired of being the good girl who gets her heart broken. I think, deep down, you want to be someone who takes what she wants. Who makes the rules instead of following them. He was right. God help her, he was right. I need to think about it, she said. Take all the time you need. He left her alone on that terrace, staring out at the city that had become her prison and might now become her kingdom. Over the next few weeks, Sharon found herself pulled deeper into Junho's world. He was patient with her. He didn't push. He gave her space to process, to ask questions, to understand what she was getting into. He introduced her to his business, showed her the legitimate side of his empire, the hotels, the restaurants, the tech investments. But she also saw glimpses of the other side. The men who moved through the penthouse with quiet efficiency. The conversations that stopped when she walked into a room. The way people looked at Junho with fear and respect. One night, she was waiting for him in his study when a man burst in, bloodied and panicked. Boss, we have a problem. The Park family moved on our shipment. 3 of our men are dead. Junho's expression didn't change. His voice was calm, controlled. Where? The warehouse in Incheon. Gather the men. I'll handle this personally. He stood, and for the first time, Sharon saw him reach into his desk drawer and pull out a gun. He checked the clip, holstered it under his jacket, and turned to find her standing in the doorway. You shouldn't see this, he said. I'm already seeing it. Junho paused. Are you afraid? Sharon looked at the man she had been sharing a bed with for 2 weeks. The man who brought her coffee every morning and held her through nightmares about David. The man who looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. No, she said honestly. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. Maybe, but I'm not. He crossed to her and kissed her forehead. Stay here. I'll be back before morning. Junho. She grabbed his arm. Be careful. Something softened in his eyes. Always. He was back before dawn as promised. There was blood on his shirt, but it wasn't his. Sharon didn't ask questions. She just led him to the shower, helped him wash the night off his skin, and held him in bed until the sun rose. This was her life now. And strangely, she didn't want it any other way. A month after Sharon moved into the penthouse, David resurfaced. She was leaving a meeting at Junho's legitimate offices when she saw him waiting by her car. He looked terrible, unshaven, wild-eyed, desperate. Sharon, I've been trying to reach you for weeks. I blocked your number for a reason, David. Please, just listen to me. He grabbed her arm, and immediately, Junho's driver stepped forward. Sharon waved him off. You have 1 minute. Something's happening. I don't know what I did, but my life is falling apart. I got fired. They're investigating me for embezzlement. Money I never stole, I swear. My bank accounts are frozen. My landlord is evicting me. Jasmine left me the second things went bad. Sounds like karma to me. Sharon, please. You know me. You know I would never steal. Someone is setting me up. And I think. He looked around nervously. I think it has something to do with whoever you're seeing now. People are talking. They say you're with someone dangerous. Sharon felt a cold smile spread across her face. Dangerous? Me? I'm not joking. There are men following me. I've gotten threatening calls. Someone slashed my tires. This isn't normal. She stepped closer to him, lowering her voice. You destroyed 3 years of my life. You made me feel like I was nothing without you. You slept with my best friend and then tried to gaslight me into staying. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? David's face went pale. Sharon, what did you do? I didn't do anything. She smiled. But I'm with someone now who takes care of me. Someone who doesn't take kindly to people who hurt what's his. Are you insane? You're going to let some criminal destroy my life. No, David. Sharon leaned in close. I'm going to watch him destroy your life. And I'm going to enjoy every second of it. She got in the car and didn't look back. That night, she told Junho about the encounter. He listened without interrupting, his face unreadable. I can call it off, he said when she finished. If you want me to stop. Why would I want that? Because he was someone you loved. Because revenge feels good in the moment, but leaves a bitter taste in the end. Because you're not like me, Sharon. You still have light in you. She crawled into his lap and cupped his face. I spent 3 years dimming my light for David. 3 years making myself smaller so he could feel bigger. I'm done with that. I want to burn bright, Junho. I want to burn so bright that everyone who ever made me feel worthless has to shield their eyes. He kissed her, deep and hungry. Then burn, my love. I'll make sure the whole world sees your flames. The next few weeks were intoxicating. Junho destroyed David systematically. The embezzlement investigation resulted in criminal charges. His reputation was ruined. His friends abandoned him. The last Sharon heard, he was living in a tiny studio apartment, working at a convenience store, trying to scrape together enough money for a lawyer who could save him from prison. But that wasn't enough for Junho. He found Jasmine, who had moved on to another wealthy man, and sent evidence of her affair to the man's wife. Within days, Jasmine was exposed as a homewrecker and blacklisted from the social circles she so desperately wanted to be part of. Sharon watched it all with a satisfaction that surprised her. She had never thought of herself as a vengeful person. But there was something cathartic about seeing the people who had hurt her face consequences. Meanwhile, her relationship with Junho deepened. He was possessive and protective, but he never tried to control her. He gave her complete freedom within his world. He listened when she spoke. He valued her opinions. He treated her like an equal, not a possession. And the intimacy between them was unlike anything she had ever experienced. He knew her body like he had studied it. He knew exactly where to touch, exactly how to move, exactly what to whisper to drive her wild. But more than that, he knew her soul. He saw her darkness and didn't flinch. He saw her light and cherished it. I love you, she told him one night, lying in his arms after they had made love for hours. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, so softly she almost didn't hear it, I love you too. More than I thought I was capable of. Is that a bad thing? It's a dangerous thing. Love makes you vulnerable. In my world, vulnerability gets you killed. Then we'll just have to be invincible together. He laughed, a real laugh, one of the few she had ever heard from him. You're insane, you know that? Probably. But you love me anyway. I do. He kissed her temple. God help me, I do. But their happiness was not meant to last unchallenged. It started with whispers. Rumors in the underworld that Kang Junho had gone soft. That he was distracted by a woman. That the Kang family was vulnerable for the first time in decades. The Park family, their biggest rivals, began making moves. Encroaching on Kang territory. Recruiting Kang men. Testing boundaries. And then, one night, they made their biggest move yet. Sharon was leaving a charity event, one of the many she now attended as Junho's partner, when a black van pulled up beside her. Before she could scream, before Junho's security could react, she was grabbed and thrown inside. The last thing she heard before a bag was thrown over her head was a voice she didn't recognize saying, "The boss says hello." She woke up in a warehouse, tied to a chair. Her head was pounding, and her wrists were raw from the rope. Across from her sat a man in an expensive suit, watching her with cold amusement. "So you're the woman who tamed Kang Junho," he said. "I expected someone more impressive." "Who are you?" Sharon demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. "Park Sungmin, Junho, and I have history. Bad history. And now, thanks to you, I finally have a way to bring him to his knees. If you think kidnapping me will make him weak, you're wrong. It'll just make him angry." Sungmin laughed. "Oh, I'm counting on that. An angry man makes mistakes. And Junho has been too careful for too long. It's time someone reminded him that in this world, love is a liability. Sharon's heart was racing, but she refused to show fear. He'll come for me. I'm counting on that too. Sungmin stood and straightened his jacket. In fact, I've already sent him the invitation. Now we just wait and see who lives and who dies. Hours passed. Days maybe. Sharon lost track of time in the windowless warehouse. She was given water but no food. Her captors took turns watching her, occasionally making threats about what would happen if Junho didn't cooperate. But Sharon didn't break. She thought about David, how he had made her feel weak and dependent. She thought about Jasmine, how she had underestimated Sharon's strength. She thought about every person who had ever looked at her and seen someone who could be used and discarded. They were all wrong. She was not weak. She was not a victim. She was the woman who had walked into a lion's den and made the lion fall in love with her. And she would survive this too. On the third night, she heard it. Gunshots. Shouting. The sounds of a war being waged outside the warehouse walls. And then the door blew open. Junho walked in like an angel of death. His suit was torn, there was blood on his face, but his eyes were blazing with a fury that made even Sungmin's men take a step back. Junho, Sungmin started. Don't. Junho's voice was quiet, but it carried. Don't say another word. Because you're about to die, and I want your last moments to be silent. Everything happened so fast. Junho's men poured into the warehouse. Sungmin tried to use Sharon as a shield, but Junho was faster. A single shot. Sungmin dropped. Then Junho was cutting her free, pulling her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm so sorry. I should have protected you better. I should have. Stop. Sharon pulled back and cupped his bloody face. I'm alive. You came for me. That's all that matters. I would have burned the entire city down to find you. I know. She kissed him gently. I know. They went home that night, to the penthouse that had become their sanctuary. Junho refused to let her out of his sight. He bathed her wounds himself, dressed her in his clothes, and held her in bed like she might disappear if he let go. I can't do this, he said in the darkness. Sharon's heart stopped. What do you mean? I can't put you in danger like that again. The thought of losing you, it almost killed me. Maybe you should leave. Go back to America. Start over somewhere safe. Junho. She turned to face him. Listen to me carefully. I am not leaving you. Not now. Not ever. This life is my life now. I chose it. I chose you. And I will keep choosing you every day for as long as I live. Even if it gets you killed? Even then. She kissed him softly. I would rather live one dangerous day by your side than 100 safe days without you. He was quiet for a long time. Then, marry me. Sharon blinked. What? Marry me. He sat up, his eyes intense. I know I'm not a good man. I know I can't promise you a normal life. But I can promise you my complete devotion. My protection. My love. For as long as I breathe, you will be the most important thing in my world. Junho. I don't have a ring. I didn't plan this. But I can't spend another moment not knowing if you're mine completely. Sharon laughed, tears streaming down her face. You ridiculous man. Of course I'll marry you. He kissed her then, with all the passion and desperation of a man who had almost lost everything. And when they made love that night, it was different. It was a promise. A vow. A declaration of war against anyone who would ever try to tear them apart. The wedding happened 3 weeks later, in a private ceremony at Junho's estate in Jeju Island. Sharon wore a stunning white gown that made her melanin glow. Junho wore all black, of course, looking like the most beautiful villain in any story ever written. Their vows were simple but powerful. I was lost before I met you, Sharon said. Broken. Empty. You didn't fix me, you helped me fix myself. You showed me that I was strong, that I was worthy, that I deserved love. I promise to stand by your side through every storm. To be your partner in all things. To love you not in spite of your darkness, but because of it. Junho took her hands and held them like they were sacred. I built walls around my heart that I thought no one could break. Then you walked into my club with fire in your eyes, and you burned those walls to the ground. I promise to protect you, to cherish you, to give you everything I have and everything I am. You are my light, Sharon. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure that light never dims. They kissed as the sun set over the ocean, and Sharon knew, with absolute certainty, that she had found her home. Months later, Sharon stood on the balcony of the penthouse, looking out at the city that had once felt so foreign and now felt like it belonged to her. Junho came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "The night we met. How I walked into that club ready to burn the world down." "And did you?" "Burn it down." She smiled. "I burned down everything that wasn't working. And in the ashes, I found something better. Us. Us." He turned her around and kissed her forehead. "Any regrets?" "Not a single one." Her phone buzzed. A notification from a social media account she rarely checked anymore. Someone had tagged her in a photo, Jasmine, posting a cryptic message about karma. Sharon laughed and showed Junho. "She still hasn't learned," he said. "She never will. Some people are incapable of growth. Want me to send another reminder?" Sharon shook her head. "No. She's not worth our energy anymore." She deleted the notification and put her phone away. "Besides, we have more important things to focus on." "Like what?" She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "Like the fact that I'm pregnant." Junho froze. His eyes went wide. "You're about 8 weeks along. I found out yesterday. I wanted to wait for the right moment to tell you, but..." She didn't get to finish. He kissed her so deeply, so thoroughly, that she forgot what she was going to say. When they finally broke apart, there were tears in his eyes. Kong Junho, the most feared man in Seoul, was crying. "I never thought I could have this," he whispered. "A family. A real family. Someone who loves me despite everything I've done." "You have it now," Sharon said softly. "You have us." He dropped to his knees and pressed his forehead against her stomach. "I will protect you both with my life. I will build an empire that our child will be proud of. I will be the man you deserve." "You already are," Sharon said, running her fingers through his hair. "You already are." 1 year later, Sharon gave birth to a beautiful baby girl with her mother's warm brown skin and her father's sharp features. They named her Sora, meaning sky, because she was their heaven, their peace, their entire world. The Kang family was stronger than ever. Junho had consolidated his power, eliminated his enemies, and begun the transition to fully legitimate business. There would always be shadows in their lives, but the light was winning. David ended up in prison for 3 years. When he got out, he tried to start over, but the charges followed him everywhere. Last Sharon heard, he was working at a car wash in a small town in Ohio, alone and forgotten. Jasmine bounced from man to man, never finding the security she so desperately craved. Her social media became a graveyard of failed relationships and desperate pleas for attention that no one answered. And Sharon? Sharon became the queen of Seoul's underworld. Not through violence or fear, but through intelligence, compassion, and an unshakable partnership with the man she loved. She often thought about that night in the club. The night she caught David with Jasmine. The night her old life ended and her new one began. If she could go back, would she change anything? Not a single thing. Because pain is not the end of the story. Sometimes, it's just the beginning. And sometimes, the best revenge is becoming so happy that the people who tried to destroy you can't even bear to watch. This is the end of Sharon's story. But before you go, I want you to know that if this story touched your heart, if you felt every emotion Sharon felt, if you were rooting for her and Junho from the very beginning, then hit that subscribe button and join our family. We post stories like this every week, stories of love, betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Stories featuring strong Black women who refuse to be broken. Stories that will make you laugh, cry, and believe in the power of second chances. Drop a comment below and tell me, what was your favorite part of the story? And what would you have done in Sharon's position? Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and share it with someone who needs to hear that their story isn't over. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next story.